welcome to another live stream today on the 2nd of February 2022, 2222. That is the day. So let's talk about, as people are kind of stumbling in here, making sure people are coming. All right. So last weekend, I got myself a brand new, I was on the AMC membership, a movie membership thing, where, you pay once a month, you get to see 3 movies a week for free on, hello, Henry. Hello, guys. I'm just gonna say hi. Let me finish my story here. So last week I was on the AMC plan. Well, actually, years ago I was on the AMC plan. During the pandemic, kind of got all canceled and everything kind of shuffled around. And then AMC, I was like, their offerings in my area aren't so great. So I'm going to try the Edwards, the Regal version. So I got myself the Regal plan when I saw the Spider-Man movie, which we talked about last week. And I saw it in 4X theater, which I didn't realize that the 4X would add another like $4 to the price, whatever. So I was like, well, I want to make use of my Regal, my Regal membership. So I was like, I want to see a movie, but I don't know really what to see, because I haven't been following anything that's going on, and I didn't really know what was going on with the movies. So I just pulled up my phone app and I said, okay, what's playing in my theater? Oh, this movie called Nightmare Alley. I don't know what that is. I read the little description. Oh, Bradley Cooper's in it and it's in black and white. And then I saw something like this. Oh yeah. All right, I'm going to go see that. So I walked in to Nightmare Alley with absolutely no comprehension of what this is going to be about or anything. I just knew it was a film noir and it was in black and white. My phone's going off right now telling me Nightmare Alley. And I was watching this movie and I thought, wow, this is really good. And the black and white photography is gorgeous, and it's like the acting is great. It's just the direction is like, wow, the direction is really, really good. And I didn't know. I thought, well, film noir, maybe it's a detective story. No, it's not a detective story. It's got this whole, carnival angle to it, which carnivals are always great for cinematography. Like, I think if you want to get good cinematography, just go to a carnival, because there's always cool set design. There's all kinds of lighting, light bulbs. I'm a big fan of twinkling lights, small lights, so the carnivals are full of lights. And I thought it was great. I got to the very end of the movie, and I was kind of like, because I didn't know anything about the plot, didn't know a damn thing about what was going to happen. I was every step of the way was brand new and fresh to me. I thought it was great. And then the first credit opens up, Guillermo del Toro movie. I'm like, oh, no kidding. That's why it's so damn good. It took me a while to go back and find out more information about Nightmare Alley. Nightmare Alley was actually a remake of this movie. Same thing, Tyrone Power, Nightmare Alley from 1940s. This is an example of a great idea for a remake. You take a movie that maybe is not so well known, not quite exactly, not exactly everyone's favorite movie. You don't remake The Godfather. You make a movie like Nightmare Alley, which maybe few people have seen, maybe a lot of people have seen. Probably my audience, a lot of you guys might have seen it. But you take an older movie that, and apparently what I was reading, Guillermo del Toro read the book. It was actually given the book by Ron Perlman. And he read the book, he loved it. Then he saw the movie and said, well, the book is like a huge saga. It's a massive story, so we can take a different approach to it. So, it's very similar, I guess. I didn't see the original, the Tyrone Power version. But then I learned also that the movie was shot in color. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Because I saw the first time I saw it was in black and white. Now, I was thinking when I was watching the black and white version, this is a great image, but they are at a carnival. And I kind of miss all the colors at a carnival. But it works really good in black and white, too. It works really, really well. But there's the color versions out there. It just hit Hulu and HBO Max on Monday. So last week when I was talking about Spider-Man, I got one commenter saying, hey, where are all the good movies? Where are all the good filmmakers? They're out there. Sometimes what you got to do is just take a leap of faith. Go into movie theater blind and literally just say, that movie, okay, I'm going to see that. and I'm not gonna watch a trailer for it. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna go experience that movie, and that could be good, it could be bad, but that's kind of the reward of going to the movies, really, and seeing a movie that you have no idea. And that's what I miss about the old days too. And here I am, old man, old crotchety man, sitting here telling you about the old days. Is you could literally turn on, in the really old days, before even we had cable, although I had cable very late into my life because my dad was cheap. You could just turn on a channel, and a movie would be playing. Maybe you hadn't seen it, and like, I'll just leave it on and watch that. And you just let it run. The commercials would interrupt it and be like annoying. But you could just leave it on in the afternoon and watch a movie, and it would just play for you. It'd be curated for you. Now we have all this choice. We have to go out there. We have to work hard. We have to go out and seek a movie to see. We can't just plop on the couch and just bloop and then just play whatever. That's what's great sometimes about like a movie channel like HBO or something like that, where you just turn it on and just watch whatever's on there and have it curated for you rather than having all these choices. Because I don't know, you guys, I'm sure, as I've done it too, is you've probably sat there and just on your Netflix home screen like, nah, oh, maybe I'll watch that later. Put that on my wish list. Nah. Oh, I should watch that movie. I should watch that. No. Okay. And just do that for an hour and a half instead of actually watching a movie. But and the thing is, I've done the blind movie thing two other times in my life that have just blown me away. The first time was when I watched Mad Max Fury Road. I was not a fan of Mad Max. I just it wasn't my thing. I didn't know much about it. I saw like Beyond Thunderdome with my friend who was like, oh, you gotta watch this. This is Beyond Thunderdome. We were kids. And it was a kiddie movie. And I was like, it's, whatever. I didn't get Mad Max. So I walked into Fury Road literally blind. I knew it had good ratings, so like I just need to go see a movie. I'll just see Mad Max Fury Road, whatever. I'll just go see that, and I was floored by that movie, like just completely blown away. And the other movie I watched was, I guess it's now called Live, Die, Repeat. Back then it was something. It was Tom Cruise movie, Age of Tomorrow or some nonsense. It's kind of like the Groundhog Day movie with Tom Cruise, where he has to go back and relive the thing. And I kind of walked into that pretty blind. I'm like, I was just gonna see this movie, and it ended up being pretty good. Pretty good. Hey, Pops Freshenmeyer, get back to your comments here. But yeah, I would definitely recommend going out to just see, like that's the thing. I think that what irritates me so much is that I do like the occasional superhero movie. They are not my favorite things in the world, but I do. They're kind of a comfort food. It's like mac and cheese. It's not great for you, but once in a while you can have it. It's not bad. I like but obviously, I enjoy other movies as well. I definitely enjoyed Nightmare Alley way more than I did Spider-Man. But that's just a different taste. That's all it really is. Nightmare Alley, there's so many things to look at, so many things to pick apart, and the design, everything was just fascinating and cool and well done. I can't say enough. I think it's probably, there's not a whole lot of movies I saw that were made in 2021. It would be on my list. But the thing is, superhero people get all cranky about superhero movies, and like, okay, I get it. You don't want to watch everything, but you got to go out and find these other things. Like I never heard of Nightmare Alley. No, I haven't been following the papers and I haven't been following the press. And I saw that Martin Scorsese wrote a big piece about it on the LA Times, which he's right. You should definitely go seek it out. So I haven't been following all that. But you actually have to do the work to find this stuff. You can't just sit back and like expect it to be marketed towards you. It's like sit back and think, oh, you're going to feed me all the good movies I should watch. They're not going to have the big, they're going to feed you the crapola, the mass-produced movies. They're going to feed you the blockbusters. They're not going to feed you the art movies. Although, I wouldn't even say Nightmare Alley is an art movie. It's just a really well-done noir. It's art, if you want to call it. It's not an artsy-fartsy movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's a legitimately entertaining Hollywood production. It was a $60 million production. And Del Toro said it looks like a $200 million movie. I think he's kind of wrong in that. I mean, I think it looks fantastic, but I think it's because the technology is so good now we can do so much with $60 million. I mean, that's a great looking movie for $60 million. You don't need $200 million. That's Scorsese's thinking. Scorsese needs $200 million to make a movie. Del Toro can do it for 60 and make a smashing movie. So I would highly, highly recommend you guys go out and see Nightmare Alley. I do want to read one quote from you, and this pertains to filmmaking, which I think is a good, let's talk about filmmaking in regards to Del Toro. Del Toro said he brought on Bradley Cooper to act in this thing. Bradley Cooper is a producer on it. He wasn't involved with it from the beginning, but it seems to me what I've gathered from this quote and from this Wikipedia article is that Del Toro and Bradley Cooper started really jiving together and really working together with the scene. And it's because Bradley Cooper has also been a director. So if you're acting and directing are very closely related. You really, I'll take it back. You can be a director and not understand actors, but if you're doing like an action movie or a special effects movie, maybe. But if you're more doing like a more drama or serious contemplative movie, you really need to be in with the actors, understand what's going on with the actors. So he writes in this Wikipedia article has a quote here. Curiosity, so he says, let me set this up further. He talks about how working with Bradley Cooper really changed his approach to filmmaking. That it was because Cooper was a director as well, that they could really kind of work together and just find kind of a new way of approaching things. I want to read this. Quote, Del Toro, curiosity and integrity are the two things. They are very bonded. We're like truffle hunters, smelling for that, looking for a certain truth, not verisimilitude or realism, but truth, which is a higher form of telling a story. How we get to it is only through curiosity. When we have collaborators, the main reward is a point of view that you can literally bounce off or get bounced off and seek for the truth. I found it a blessing at age 56 in this movie to find the marvel of complicity and curiosity. Quote, is that all we can do with that scene, with that shot? And you keep seeking. I just find that a fascinating quote about filmmaking, and I think we don't have to necessarily be working on $60 million movies to kind of understand that approach. I see this a lot in film essays that are on YouTube. They often ascribe sort of an omnificent, whatever the word is, a very they give godlike powers to the director. Like the director basically imagines everything in their mind and then just spews forth onto the film. That's not how filmmaking works. That's just not how filmmaking works at all. And I think to teach, if I were to lead a class and to work on directing a scene and directing a movie, it's not the way I would approach it. And I think it's the wrong way to study film and film history. It's really more about collaborators and people bouncing off of each other. And it's not I think look at the example of Matt Stone and Trey Parker. And you think that Trey Parker is probably more of the alpha, I guess, in that couple. In that Matt Stone seems to be more reserved and behind the scenes, but Trey Parker seems to be in the front, leading it. And he's usually, I think, credited as the director. But I think that relationship is really important because I don't think with Trey Parker without Matt Stone probably wouldn't be as good or wouldn't have what makes them special because he can bounce it off of Matt Stone. Again, I'm just kind of speculating here and mind reading. But I think that's really important. I think for young filmmakers and people starting out to get away from the idea that it is all director control, firm iron grasp of the scene, to we are collaborating with other people, and then other people can come in and work with us and find things and make things work rather than as just one person. It's always good to just bounce stuff off of people. So anyhow, that's my take. See, the chat is going already. We are going. Hey, Henry says, just the most recent chat. I think that godlike view of the director is common because it's so much easier to ascribe genius and awfulness to one person. When collaborative things get messier, and it comes when it comes to authorship. I agree, and I think this is what I talked about in my video about auteur theory, which I think auteur theory is probably the worst thing that happened to understanding filmmaking, because we ascribe the director as the auteur, the author of a movie, when it's not usually the case. And as much as I love Red Letter Media, and believe me, I do love those guys, I think the people that have kind of ridden their coattails, maybe, because I think Red Letter Media understands this, but people that kind of casually see their material and they start thinking, well, then the director is, the director is godlike, and anybody that interferes with the director is a bad guy automatically. Producers, bad guys. Executives, bad guys. All the studio system, studio heads are all bad guys, and I think that's just the wrong way to look at it. It's incredibly wrong way to look at it. It's kind of funny because I've been doing I'm finishing up the Fox video. So believe me, it's 2 years, man. We're finally going to finish it. I'm right now at the end of the 90s, actually, or mid 90s with Barry Diller. But if you look at all the studio heads from Zucker, or not Zucker, that's the NBC guy. No, from Zanuck to Alan Ladd to who else is in there? What's her name? Sherry Lansing. All these people actually left the job to make their own films. They all love making films. It's funny, being the head of a studio in those studios. Head of production usually means people that are passionate about making films. They want films. They want to make good films, and not everybody's a corporate shill that's going to just market test everything and run it by a studio, run it by what's the word I'm thinking of? Dang it. Focus groups. Not going to focus group everything. I'm going to take a sip of my soda here. But again, maybe nowadays, because maybe nowadays corporate Hollywood has gotten so bad that it is going to be more all focus grouped, and we're going to make sure that doesn't offend the Chinese censors. I don't know. So it's always a balancing act. It's always weird. Who knows what's going to happen? But anyhow, yeah, I think that one of the great things is when you have a lot of times you'll have a producer that is the one that steps up and actually really guides the director to what they need to do. And sometimes the producer is the one that gets in the way. It's so easy to just ascribe it to auteurs and directors as auteurs and just blame them for good or bad, as you're saying. So anyhow, yeah. So I have cooldown mode, I guess, on YouTube because it does. At first, it slows down my stream here, and I don't have that many commenters here yet, so it kind of keeps things kind of going, but it also prevents some of the spammy folks from just flooding it. I remember we had a case of somebody that had, I know we have one right here, a spammer that's trying to get through with a vum.today thing. Anyhow. So, Hot Rod Cars, it says, I'm making my own movie. Hot Rod Productions, sweet. Nice. Henry says, I know Andrew Saris could be kind of weird. Remember when he thought Kevin Smith would be the next Scorsese? There was a time when Kevin Smith could have been the next Scorsese. Time is gone by now, though, unfortunately. Okay, so I guess we're going to trash talk some people here now. No, I like Kevin Smith. I really do. And I grew up, obviously I grew up in the time when Kevin Smith was sort of our leader, because I was part of, I wasn't in the independent movie making scene in the 90s because I was a little bit too young for that, but I came up through that, and I was fascinated by Tarantino and by Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith, we all know this, Robert Rodriguez, we all, oh my God, in MySpace, everyone knew about it. He only spent $6,000 to make, whatever, El Mariachi or whatever the hell his first movie was. And then Kevin Smith, his first $22,000 movie with shot on black and white, I think it was Super 8 maybe. That was huge. That was legends, stuff of legends. And people in MySpace back in the day when we would discuss this stuff would just be going, they'd be hanging their dreams on what Kevin Smith did. And, Clerks, when it first came out, was edgy and sophisticated. And then the next one, Chasing Amy, was really deep and dark. And so you're like, okay, well, maybe he is going to be a Scorsese. But then he did not take off that direction. And I'll be frank. I used to listen to a lot of the Kevin Smith podcast, especially when he does with Mark Bernardin, I think. And I remember them every time a movie would come out. Usually Mark Bernardin would kind of chime in and say, "You know what? I didn't like it." Or Kevin Smith would usually love the movie, and Mark Bernardin said, I liked it, but here's how it could have been better. And he would go and sit and describe a plot that you're like, oh, that is way better, and everyone would think that. And Kevin Smith would jump in and, oh man, that is brilliant. I wish we would have seen that movie. And then they had the He-Man series, and what happened there? So it makes you think like, well, it's great to sit and talk a good game about movies and talk about, oh, you can write a better plot. I don't know what happened to He-Man, because that blew chunks. I didn't see it. My friends who are He-Man fans say, "Ugh, stay away. So, yeah, I don't really, and I kind of thought about. I mean, I always hate it when people armchair quarterback and they think they know everything. It's like, I don't mind a little bit of armchair quarterbacking and saying, hey, here's what I should have, I think this should have been done. I think this should have been done. But to pretend like you have some superpower by being an armchair quarterback, yeah, that's the word. You gotta hit, the rubber hits the road, baby. You gotta do it. Do it. Anyhow. Jason says, my wife likes any comic book movie. I just wanted to share that pain in public. It's a good comic book movie, The Death of Stalin. I'm not kidding. That's a comic book movie. Death of Stalin. Great comic book movie. Based on a comic book. Not kidding. So, don't necessarily knock the comic book movies. All right, let's see what other comments we got here. Pedro says, and hello, Pedro, I haven't seen you. How it could be better for Kevin Smith. Something, this character is actually gay, and on and on. Kevin Smith doesn't really do a lot of I guess he does do a lot of gay stuff. Most of his characters aren't really gay, actually. I'm trying to think of any. There's a lot of gay humor. Like, pardon the expression, there's a lot of, like, Kevin Smith talks a lot about sucking, appendages, but he's not really. I don't think he has a lot of gay characters in his movies. And this is somebody that I've watched like all five. I watched at least his first series of movies back when he was a Hollywood director before he became more independent. So I watched, Clerks. I watched everything up to Clerks 2. Clerks, Chasing Amy. Chasing Amy is really good, by the way. I would recommend Chasing Amy. If you guys haven't seen it, it's not a typical Kevin Smith kind of movie. This is more dark. It's probably one of his best movies. Then what else is there? There's the one with Matt Damon as the angel. I forget the name of the thing. That was pretty good. Not my favorite. I think Chasing Amy, Mallrats. Mallrats is number 2. Sorry, so Mallrats is number 2, right? Mallrats, I could take Mallrats. What else? Shoot, I forget the other ones. But I kind of stopped before Clerks 2. I didn't watch Clerks 2. Derek says, I am on YouTube and Safari browser. Oh, we can't see it. My YouTube app tends to crash. It's only a long story. We just have bad internet here. Well, that's a shame. Yeah, Harry Henry says it's wild finding The Death of Stalin was based on a comic. I think maybe it's just also realizing that the comics aren't just for, kids. The comics can be for a lot of people. Graphic novels. But then again, something like Batman's are graphic novels too. Yeah, people should always specify superhero movies, not comic book movies, because there's way more comics than just superheroes. Ghost World, there's another. American Splendor are both comic book movies. Dogma, thank you. That's the name of the Kevin Smith movie. What kind of things do I collect? Oh my God. I have been building my display collection. I like to build, so I'm a 3D printer and I like to collect 3D print. So I like to collect movie kind of references. So I always try to go for a movie reference. You know, I've got Angry over here. I've got the couple, it's one of my favorite things in the world, but I don't know what, it's the Indiana Jones, fertility idol, but it's the wine cork topper. I just love that idea. I don't think anybody else gets it the way I do. I've got stuff back there that's like I try to do everything movie stuff for the set, but I like to build and make and paint stuff. So that's my thing. It's like I missed my time period to be a miniature creator for the movies. And now I just want to do this. Yeah, you finally made a live chat. I purposely went ahead and scheduled it an hour before I actually did it. I think that's what I've been doing. Well, I think I screwed up before. Well, I would tend to just like go right when I'm ready. Right? This time I tried to set up an hour before. Then I went to have some lunch at In-N-Out. That's California special. I used to not care for In-N-Out, but as I get older, I'm like, I kind of like their French fries, even though most people hate them. But I kind of like them. Yeah, Pedro says, Chasing Amy and Dogma are awesome. Clerks 1 lives in my heart. And Red State, I like with a lot of, even though I didn't really care for Red State. But I could see why. I don't know if anyone saw Tusk. I didn't see Tusk. Clerks 2 just for Rosario Dawson's hotness. Yeah, pretty much. There you go. Derek says, maybe it's just me getting old, but I really don't have no desire seeing new movies, just like new music. Man. Yeah, you know, I hear you, but I think maybe what you should do is seek out the movies you think you might want to watch. I think that's how you get around to it. Oh, here you go. The classic Val Lewton films at RKO are highly recommended, like Cat People. Yes, The Seventh Victim, and I walked with a zombie for a few examples. You know what I also loved about doing this Fox video, because I'm doing the history of Fox, is finding some of these, going through I'm trying to put movie trailers in the thing, because I don't want to use necessarily clips from the movie. I've never seen Cleopatra, but I'm kind of curious to see it, because I hear it's actually that's actually pretty decent. But I haven't seen Cleopatra. And I was going through a couple, because under Richard Zanuck, there was 2 X-rated movies that they made at Fox. And the first one did okay, which was Russ Meyer's Beyond the Valley of Dolls, which you guys probably know. Russ Meyer's Beyond the Valley of Dolls was written by Roger Ebert. It's the only movie he ever wrote. And it looks pretty bad. And I think I saw it once, but I was like so bored by it. I didn't understand what's going on. And then the other movie that looked kind of interesting, but in very bad, was a Myra Breckinridge. Apparently a movie, like, it like bombed bad. Like, it was part of the reason why Richard Zanuck got fired. Was, well, I mean, it wasn't the only reason, but it was like, you're making this crap? And it bombed, you know? So Myra Breckinridge was kind of interesting. It was X-rated, too. So it was a... what's the girl's name from the Italian actress? I forget. I think it's the same girl from 10,000 BC, the redheaded woman. But I don't, you know, it's I have no idea what the hell the plot. I think it looks kind of like a Showgirls plot, kind of. It's weird. Derek says the mouse killed the fox. I was actually going to call it the mouse ate the fox. Because the mouse gobbled up the fox. Harry says, I've seen Cleopatra. It's a good film just by itself. Well, I downloaded to use in the video, talk a lot about Cleopatra, because it didn't destroy Fox, but it certainly looked like it almost did. Like there's a documentary about like the making of Cleopatra. Holy moly. If you can find it on YouTube. That's where I got it. I took clips from it. It's made in like the 80s or 90s. But it just documents the shit show that Cleopatra was. It was insane. Like the kind of money that was thrown at this movie. Now, it did finally make the money back, but it was enough to it ended Spiros Skouris's career there. I mean, he was retiring anyways, but that's the note he went out on, you know. And yeah, it's fantastic. I definitely I do cover it. I do spend like a good 10 minutes in the Fox video talking about what you call it, Cleopatra. The documentary about it, produced by Ancient Aliens guy on DVD, is excellent. Is that the one in Cleopatra? I'm not sure. Maybe it was that one in 2001. Okay, maybe it was. I thought it was earlier. I love how the main guy at Fox at the time was just the geekiest Greek that ever Greeked. Oh yeah, he was off the boat. He literally. So the other, I really should do like small histories of just interesting things that happened, because the main guy at Fox, you're talking about Spiros Skouris, and there is a great story about the time when Nikita Khrushchev came to visit the United States, and he went to New York City, and then he went to a pig farm because he really wanted to see how a pig farm in the evil capitalists of America would run a pig farm. And then they took him to see the Fox studios at 20th Century Fox. And they walk him in, they were shooting a movie called Can, the French Can. And I believe Warren Beatty's sister is in it. I forget her name. Dang it. So they have a private showing, and they're recording this big giant dance number, and and he comes in and he sees this, and then they all invite him out to lunch at the cafeteria that's in Fox, and they go in, and then Spiros Skouris gets up there and he just starts railing about capitalism and communism. He's like, only in this country can a poor Greek boy like me, and then he's a very thick Greek accent, a Greek boy like me can, I was making 10 cents moving goods, and now I'm the head of a great American studio. And he's just kind of going off on capitalism and all that stuff. And then Nikita Khrushchev gets up there and I think starts expounding on something about communism, and they both kind of like, it's kind of all showiness and all that stuff. And then I think at that point they try to convince him, or I forget whether they actually take him to Disneyland. I think the next day or something like that. Khrushchev, they take him to Disneyland on his visit. Anyhow, there's this great shot too. There's a newsreel too, and you see this on a newsreel, and then because Marilyn Monroe was a big star at that time. She was at the lunch, like everybody, all the famous people were at the lunch. So they bring in Marilyn Monroe, and they ask so Marilyn, what do you think of this dust-up between the capitalists and communists? And Marilyn Monroe's like, I thought it was interesting. And the reporter press is like, oh, you mean interesting? What do you mean interesting? She's like, very interesting. I have to go. She just excuses herself out of it. It's like very smart. I wish Hollywood stars today had such tact. Like, it was brilliantly done. So definitely check out, if you can find out, the Nikita Khrushchev Fox. I don't talk about it in the video because it really doesn't pertain to what I'm talking about. But it is. I would love to do like just a little quick bit, like a history bit on that, because it's a fascinating piece of history. And it's also funny too, because Spiros Skouris was the first, the Greek influence in Fox. But when I visited, my friend was working there. He invited me on. He talked about Jim Giannopoulos. He was the head of Fox from like 2012 to like 2018 or so, before they sold out to Disney. So Jim Giannopoulos was a big Greek. So there's a Greek tradition at Fox, and of course, what else? What movie did Fox release? Zorba the Greek. You gotta love the Greeks. I love the Greeks. And boy, I think I don't forget where it was. I had Uzo. Oh, that stuff is good. Love the Greeks, man. They're awesome. Anyhow. Here we go. Okay, we're going to talk about it. Hey, I wanted to say this for a long time, but I really appreciate you fighting for 24 Hertz. Outside of sports, video games, and documentaries, I realize how much I enjoy 24 Hertz. Good. I'm not really fighting for it. I think what I've discovered is I'm trying to explain to people why it's still around. It's like no one, I think people, I got this comment about a couple days ago, someone saying like, why are you defending it? You guys are winning. They aren't making anything that's not 24 Hertz, 24 frames per second. I'm like, well, because people need to be explained why it's useful. And anyhow, probably people are sick of me talking about it. So let's move on to the next comment. Chase, 40s Fox had a strong roster of directors because they had John Ford, William Wellman, Joseph Mankiewicz, and Elia Kazan. I talk about everybody but William Wellman. I didn't talk about him on my video. When we began directing feature films, and Zanuck did not interfere and Zanuck was a filmmaker too. Like Zanuck he came from a background of filmmakers, and he quit to make his own films. Like he wanted to make his own stuff after, and then there's if you want to find a cool little video of look up Zanuck and What's My Line. I think is the name of the show. What's My Line? And What's My Line is a show from the 50s, TV show, where they'd bring on like somebody, and the celebrity panel would have to guess what that person was. And so since they brought on Zanuck, all celebrity guests knew who he was by his looks. So they blindfolded everybody, and so Zanuck was there to like promote his movie they shot in Africa, and he wasn't kind of pulling any punches. He was like, I think this is the first maid ever shot in the Congo or whatever, the Republic of Congo, and it'll probably be the last. He did not have a good time shooting the film there. So I think that's why he may have came back to head the studio. I'm not sure if Exorcist is a Fox film. I don't know. Okay, Warner Brothers, someone else says. Yeah. The Omen is a Fox movie, so maybe that's an example of a horror. The Exorcist actually changed my brain chemistry in a PTSD kind of way. Yeah, it can do that. Hey, Andrew and Tony, how you doing? Australia has neat and creepy horror stuff, like the Loved Ones. Yeah, Australia film is an interesting. When I did the Filmmaker IQ, we used to do dailies. Again, another one of those things where you put a lot of effort into something and it doesn't do well at all. Like I did a whole thing about Australian film, and I looked into Australian film, and I absolutely found it fascinating. The film industry of Australia, it's really fascinating. Peter Weir, Peter Jackson, obviously Mad Max movies, a lot of stuff that comes out of Australia that we don't really. It's a different flavor, it's different than British films, and it's different from American films, obviously. So, Antonio, I enjoyed the Del Toro quote based around Bradley Cooper. By the way, just wasn't able to type that. Yeah, no, it was a cool thing to talk about. I think, and I think if you're a filmmaker, if you do scene studies with people, you'll appreciate it more. Why do some YouTubers shoot their vlogs in 24 FPS? Is it just a fetish thing? Benjamin Dover asked that question. Why do they shoot their vlogs in 24? I wonder why. Because it looks good. Jake Paul does all his stuff in 24. I think most of his stuff is 24 frames. I finished watching Chappie. That was way worse than I thought it would be. Sorry. Yeah, that didn't look very good to me. So I wasn't cool. Oh, Salvador Dali was on Whose Line? Or That's My Line. What's My Line? Perhaps jump ahead of here. What is the next Doc Filmmaker IQ episode coming out? What's up from Alamo City? It will be that Fox video, and it will be probably either this weekend or Monday. I don't know how I should play it. I feel I'm going to premiere it, but I'm not going to premiere it instantly. Usually what I do is I finish a video, I'm like, oh God, I'm finally done with this thing. And then I'll premiere it, I'll upload it and just hit instant premiere, and they'll premiere it right then and there. But I think with the Fox feed, I want to do a little bit of build up. I want to probably set it for a day or two so people can kind of catch the premiere if they, give them a little time to catch it. but I don't know. I honestly don't know how well it will do. The Paramount video did okay. It did like 70,000 views after 3 years or so, which is not bad for what my channel does. But the William Fox video did very poorly, and I feel like I might be underselling because I got some really weird anger from the author of a book that I used in my research that felt like she owned the facts of the historical figure. So I feel like I'm a little soured by that. But I think the thing with William Fox is a very different era of film. William Fox's era wouldn't even be what I consider films. Like we look at Theda Bara's Cleopatra as weird. Like we're not familiar with that. We look at Elizabeth Taylor's Cleopatra. Okay, that's modern filmmaking. But so that's why I think William Fox didn't do well. It was too historical. Whereas I think this 20th Century Fox will be better because it covers a lot of stuff, and it covers stuff that even my lifetime. Like I was digging through old episodes of Married with Children because I talk about Fox Television because that was a big part of the history of Fox. So I have high hopes for the video. It is going to be 40-some minutes long. So it's a feature in terms of YouTube is concerned. It's a full-length feature on YouTube at least. So that's enough. I mean, let's go back to your comments. I'll go back to a little older here. Let's see. Peter Jackson is New Zealand, not Australia. Okay. I kind of lump them all together. You can skip this question. Not too late now. Someone told me that after 95 years when Winnie the Pooh is in public domain, what are your thoughts on the length of copyright? Oh boy, you're going to get me into this. I think copyright length is probably a little long. I don't think I think it's probably at the maximum it should ever be. Like, I think we're probably a little bit erring on the side of long, but I don't think it's a very important issue. I think it's, as far as issues are concerned, it's probably one of the lowest ranking issues of all. I think most of the arguments for a shorter copyright length aren't really backed by any evidence at all. I don't think copyright length is stifling creativity. I think it actually causes more people to be more creative. However, I get the whole orphan status, like orphan work status. That is a problem. I'm not going to deny that is an absolute problem. But I don't. You look around, dude. Like, look at all the movies. Look at all the TV shows. Do we have a dearth of movies and TV shows? I think the problem with most copyright folks is they don't understand how the market works and they don't understand how copyright works. And I've gotten into on these live streams with people because they will tell me I'm wrong and I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't see the evidence. I don't see the evidence of copyright length being a problem. I think it is long though. I think we're probably erring on the long end. Now a lot of people will say we should go back to the U.S. Constitution original one. I think it's a terrible idea. The U.S. Constitution's copyright length, which was like 12 years plus 12 years. That was made for a time before the novel even existed. Like the concept of a novel didn't exist when the framers of the Constitution came up with that idea. So you have to change the rules for the times. So I think that's just silly to go back. We should actually I'd be fine if we go back to the original 1885 Berne Convention, which is life of the author plus 50 years. I think that's probably enough. But 70 years, it's not, like, the difference is not going to, keep me up at night. It just isn't. Like Winnie the Pooh. Okay, if you wanted to get a Winnie the Pooh book, you can, right? You can just literally go out and get it. Now, you could probably even download one. It might be not legally, but you could probably find versions out there. There's no one barring your access to Winnie the Pooh. Like, no one is saying, "Oh, you cannot have Winnie the Pooh." It's always like you can have Winnie the Pooh if you pay like $10 for this book or something. And okay, so the other thing I think with people don't understand with the copyright is they never think the second step. Once something becomes public domain, it means everyone can use it, not just you. Everyone can use it, and that means even the cheap Chinese knockoffs can use it. So you can have, when Winnie the Pooh becomes copyright, free of copyright, that means anybody can write a Winnie the Pooh book. It means that, your favorite J.K. Rowling could write a Winnie the Pooh book, or even the leader of the KKK can write a Winnie the Pooh book. Like, anybody can do it. So everybody will do it. And what happens when you have something that's public domain is it's a race to the bottom. It's whoever can do it the cheapest. And my phone's going crazy. Tell me to do a live stream. Very good. When you have something that's public domain, it's a race to the bottom where basically all the corporations basically will fight out, and it's whoever has the most money wins. So I don't think public domain is that. I mean, I don't get me wrong. Public domain is crucial. It is absolutely essential. But what's more important is understanding ideas are not copyrightable. Keep that in mind. Or copyright protected. That's the word. Ideas are not copyright protected. And number two, we really, really need, and this is what I think we really need to do, we need to solidify our understanding of fair use. We really need that. And that is something that the corporations are fighting, because they want to use the copyright to kind of slug people over the head. What we really need to do is shore up fair use. And this is coming from somebody that's been hit with copyright stuff all the time on Filmmaker IQ. And I'm trying not to, I try not to use too much, but I got hit with, on my video about the sound and film, Warner Brothers didn't like the fact that I used a lot of the jazz singer. They really hated the fact that I showed not just the talking part, but some of the non-talking parts. They thought that was too much. Somehow I stole from the quality of the jazz singer. Fair use needs to be really shored up. I think if you want to cause to fight, if you want a cause to kind of get rallied up about, let's strengthen fair use and understand what exactly fair use is, rather than try to take down copyright, because copyright's really important and it's really necessary. Fair use is what we need to fight. So even though you didn't think I read your question, that ended up in a nice long discussion. Sorry about that. It's one of my soapbox topics. 24 frames per second. Copyright's one of those topics that gets me going. What about copyright versus preservation? I don't know what the difference is. So the other question, the other copyright versus preservation is a good topic. So let's talk about another movie, It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life fell out of copyright and then became played by every single TV station in the country during Christmas and Thanksgiving, played around the clock. But the problem with that is every TV studio, because it's public domain, you could just chop it up. You could just cut out scenes, insert commercials. You could do whatever you wanted to it because it's public domain. And there was absolutely no profit motive in actually preserving the film, because whatever, we have these tape masters, people watch it, people love it anyway, they're not gonna freaking watch it. It wasn't until Aaron Spelling's company bought it retained the copyright because of the music. They found out the music was still copyright, so they could hold on to the whole movie. The Aaron Spelling's version, they actually went back and restored the full 4K scan. They put the money in to restore the film. So copyright is essential for preservation in the sense that you need it for the kind of money, or otherwise you can just bastardize the hell out of it. Now, I'm not saying and believe me, it's not a black and white issue either. It's not like it's saying, well, all public domain, Shakespeare's works, they're public domain, but the artifacts from Shakespeare's portfolio, is that the word? Something like that. Anyhow. Any thoughts about NFTs in filmmaking? I don't really know. I don't know anything about NFTs, really. I hear it, and if you can sell it, make money, why not? How do libraries get away with copyright stuff? Garage sales, photocopying pages, tape recordings, this is personal use play. So you're going to get into a very big topic. Now, libraries, I have an issue with the libraries. Because libraries, when the Copyright Extension Act of 1996 or something like that was coming around, the big lobbyists against that were libraries. And I think they actually did copyright disservice in America, because they mounted a very big campaign against the Extension Act, which I really think had nothing to do with Mickey Mouse. It had nothing to do with all that stuff that the Library Association was propagandizing. It has to do with the Europeans basically saying, hey, it's life plus 70 years. And the Americans like, oh, the Europeans just made it life plus 70 years. We should probably do the same. That's really the only reason the copyright thing happened. But the library people got all pissy about it, and then that resulted in basically. So that resulted articles being written, and those articles made it to the internet because the internet is library folks, technology folks, and it kind of started this trend on the internet of being anti-copyright, which I think is just not appropriate, not correct in the way it deals with the philosophy and the concepts of copyright. I am probably far away from the common think as far as copyright. I'm as far away from copyright thinking as most people on the internet will be. I'm very pro copyright. I'm also very, as I just said, pro fair use. Okay, so how do libraries? Again, fair use is one. There's also when we fix things to like books and garage sales, it's called first sale doctrine, where once you sell it to somebody, like I sell you a book, you can turn around and sell the book because you're not dealing with the idea. The problem with software, that's where the issue with software is you're not buying the actual physical media, you're buying a license to using the software, and therefore you can't go ahead and turn that around and sell that license to somebody else. That's another avenue or detail of the law and the way software is dealt with. But with books, with VHS, with DVDs, there's the first sale doctrine applies, where you can just turn around and sell them. That's not a violation of copyright at all, because in essence, what you're doing is you are selling. You have access to this media, this physical media, and then you sell it to somebody else. You no longer have access to it, so therefore it's not the same thing. Like software is different. I can sell it to somebody else because I'm making a copy of it to somebody else. And the argument too, like if you load on your machine still operates even if you sell the physical media. So it gets more complicated, but I think copyright's a fantastically interesting topic, but you get really deep into it if you get into it. Now, you bring an interesting point. Preservation in the sense of video games get lost in time due to legal limbo. That is a problem. Now, the question is though. I think it's there are so many games out there that are basically orphan games because the companies that made them are bankrupt, and the people that are responsible for them or created them, they didn't do anything with the title, so it kind of sits there. They're called orphan works, right? And I agree, orphan works are an issue, but if there's nobody that can claim it, it's a matter of tracking down who owns the copyright, because even if somebody goes bankrupt, they sell their licenses or they sell their copyrights or rights to somebody's got to have it, and then maybe it's got to find out who the hell those people are. But I think maybe something to do with orphan works maybe is you have to have an allowance for was there good faith made to try to find the owner of the work, and if you can't find the owner of the work, and the orphan work is used, then maybe there's like a forgiveness to it, or there's some sort of the statutory damages aren't there or something. There's something we got. Again, it's law. Law is not you have to figure this stuff out. And I keep telling people this about law and copyright and stuff like that. You can't necessarily have law that predicts the future. That doesn't work. Law is always the way law works. It always reacts to what happened. In fact, that's if you follow law, that the whole idea of legal precedence, like you need to, if the question of whether something is legal or not legal needs to be brought in front of a judge. Like I have a particular particular issue with this part of the law. I bring a case against somebody and it goes to the judge, and then the judge then goes to the appeals and then so forth and up to the Supreme Court, whatever it is. And that's how law is determined, through case law. So it's always reactive. You can't write laws that predict the future, and then that's the way you don't want that. You just don't want that. You can't predict how things are going to go. You need to kind of figure things out as we go. That's the way it is with copyright. It's always been that way. So, all right, let's talk some other stuff here, because you can get me going on law forever. Copyright. Nate Dolar says, hey, John, I was reading about Technicolor yesterday, and I found out that in-camera negatives are for Gone in the Wind actually still exist, and they're very well. Yeah, Technicolor was done real well because of the dye packs that were used. They were like really well. Like the Technicolor dyes were like exceptionally long-lasting and like they held up, versus Eastman Color, which did not and would totally turn like pink after a few years. So I believe the camera negatives for Wizard of Oz, Chase says, and the Gone with the Wind have been preserved by the George Eastman House along with hundreds of other classic MGM films in the 30s and 40s. Good work. I'm glad they're doing somebody's out there doing that. Pedro, so maybe that. So I guess seeing so many people complain about Adobe programs didn't motivate me to upgrade. I'm complaining about Adobe right now, but I will not switch to anything else. Sorry, guys. I'm Adobe shill. However, I hate what's going on sometimes with Adobe right now. Like I got this Red Giant universe. They use a lot of transitions, and it doesn't work with the latest version of Premiere. So I have to go back to the 2022 version, 22.0 version, and then like every maybe I'll be working for like 3 hours. Or maybe an hour and a half, and then all of a sudden my computer just freezes up. Now, I probably need to just rebuild my computer. It is like 3 or 4 years old. That's about the lifespan of a computer for me. But, yeah, come on, Adobe. Adobe, you're going to make me rebuild my computer just so I can work with your programs. Harry Henry says, ironically, not while that campaign didn't work out in 1998 extension, it did work on the internet enough that more extensions just won't happen. Backlash would be huge. Yeah, I think so. But I also think that, I don't think that there is a need for more extensions because it's the whole purpose of copyright. You're getting me back on this topic. Whole purpose of Life Plus 70 years now was that the idea that lifetimes are getting longer. So it's your life plus 2 generations following you, so that your children and your grandchildren will benefit from your copyright. And the argument for 70 years as well, because people are having kids later in their life and they're living longer, so that's why let's make it 70 years. So there's really no real reason for us to extend it any longer. So a quick question for all of you: if you think copyright lengths are too long in the United States, what are the copyright lengths in Mexico? Does anyone know? Give you guys a second. Copyright term in Mexico. So if you in the States it's life plus 70 years. So you make a movie, it's whatever you do, life plus 70 years. Go across the border to Mexico. How long is it there? All right, that's enough of time for you guys to answer. Let's see if anybody got the answers. 15 minutes. Or de cinco minutos. It's life plus 100 years in Mexico. So if you want to complain about copyright term lengths in the United States, go to Mexico. It's life plus 100 years in Mexico. And I think part of the reason that because they value Mexican heritage a lot more. So they're like, well, we want to protect the Mexican heritage. Isn't Disney's head cryogenically frozen? Is that copyright plus infinity? That's a good question. What happens if you bring him back from the dead? That'd be an interesting legal precedent. Your Honor, my client was considered dead, but he's brought back to life, so therefore we reset his copyright extension term. I don't think the courts would buy that one. Life plus another life. Yeah, kind of like life plus two young lives, basically, is kind of what they're saying. I think the argument I would say, you guys get me talking about copyright because I'm reading your comments as you're responding to me. I shouldn't do that. But most people know their grandparents, but most people don't know their great grandparents. So that's why they go with like two generations. Harry says there's at least one silent film, can't recall the name, restored from the original negatives, which is super rare. It's like, oh, cool. Yeah, I love seeing some of those things, It's funny, I was talking about Oklahoma the other day, and I was watching the Cinerama version, which is 30 frames per second, and it was, the YouTube kind of shitty encoding on YouTube, so it kind of had that bad YouTube. But because it was 30 frames a second, it felt like it was shot on video. It looked like, oh my God, this is video. So, who started this whole copyright conversation? Yeah, he didn't start the fire. It was burning when the world was turning. He didn't start the fire. I can't remember the words of the lyrics. I'd watch a movie about Walt Disney being brought back to life. Could you imagine that? He finally got people pissed off at people about smoking. No more smoking. The camera negatives of some of George Méliès' trick films are still survived and are shot simultaneously side by side with the other camera, producing another negative. Oh, cool. Interesting. Yeah, thank God for Hugo by Martin Scorsese, because he kind of turned me on to George Méliès. I didn't know about George Méliès before I saw Hugo, and it kind of led me down the Méliès' route. If they create technology to extend your life 100 years, it won't save you. No, should not. That's the question too. So people think that life of copyright. We're getting down this road again. 70 year lifetime is a lot, but sometimes for a creator, life may only be like 30, 40 years. And it's more important about the copyright in terms of life is really more about ownership and personality. Because I think if you created Winnie the Pooh, you don't want to see it fall in public domain while you're still alive. I don't think that's right. Like if you created it, you should own it till you die at least. And that is to me that makes sense, non-negotiable. How long after is the negotiating part. So oh. Did Pedro say something about Mexican copyright? Oh. The restoration company called Lobster Films is creating 3D versions of Méliès shorts, and they are mind-blowing to see. I'd be kind of curious to see. Why not? Mike Todd was right to go beyond what Cinerama could do. I love the camera tech, but it can only do so much. Up close is infinitely impossible. Yeah, Cinerama, to give you guys some background, Cinerama is the technique. If you watch the widescreen video, it's kind of sparked off the whole widescreen craze in the 50s. But it took 3 cameras, and they're all angled at certain angles, and they use 3 projectors to project a really wide image on the screen. A lot of people, there's a lot of nostalgia factor to it, but if you look at it, you're like, it's kind of hokey because the registration between the 3 screens, a little area between, it's never perfect. And it's not, and because this, the film is flat, it's not gonna, you've got 3 pieces of film and you're not gonna get a perfectly smooth, projection. It's just not gonna happen. So it's always, it was always intermediate tech. It was always a step between 2 things, right? And when 70mm came out, Todd AO, when you have bigger pieces of film, had a lot more detail, you could blow up into these humongous screens and you could retain the detail. I mean, that was the way to go, really. There we go. Okay. Chase says, because it's authentic stereotography. So they're taking the George Méliès films and actually making them stereos because they had multiple films going or multiple cameras shooting. That's what they did. Interesting. Jason says, Disney will pervert any movie that includes violence or strong language. They'll turn Pulp Fiction into 90s Dick Tracy. Nothing worse than PG-rated movies with violent situations. You know what studio made Pulp Fiction, right? They were owned by Disney. Pulp Fiction is a Disney film. It really is. All right. Hugo was a good movie, but the name kind of killed it. I don't know what it was about until years later. I thought it was just a kid's stuff movie. Yeah, I know. I agree with you there. Do they make new versions of old Disney films to extend the copyright? Sure, but it extends the copyright it doesn't actually extend the old copyright. It extends the new copyright. So you make a new Snow White, you make a new Snow White and the 7 Magical Men. You can't have them dwarves anymore. If you make a new Disney Snow White movie, the old Snow White's still going to fall out of copyright. Remember the thing is too, ideas are not copyrightable. Only the execution of the ideas. Like I'm actually going to be playing a musical soon, and next week we're going to start rehearsals for Cinderella, 1950 something or other. Yeah, Disney had their own Cinderella. And Rogers and Hammerstein's had their own Cinderella. Everyone can have their own. You can all make your own Cinderellas. You can go out and make a Cinderella right now. You can go make a Snow White right now. As long as you don't have like dwarves named Happy, Sleepy, and Doc, and Sloozy, and Slutty, and and perverted and those kinds. Maybe, well, if you might get away with a perverted. That'd be parody at that point. But yeah, as long as you don't take the elements of Snow White, you can make a Snow White movie, no problem. You can make a Snow White anything. So copyright is not like ironclad. You must not pass kind of a thing. Copyright is actually, and it's because someone was talking about. Sorry, but I keep talking about copyright. Like Star Wars happened because George Lucas couldn't make Buck Rogers. So Star Wars, because of copyright, Star Wars was created. Indiana Jones is, not just retreading an old material. So, Chase Williams says, God bless Miramax. Yep, the Disney owned Miramax at the time, I think. So, oh, there you go. There's one internet conspiracy theory where they made Frozen to fool internet search engines. People would look for Walt Disney's Frozen. That's a good one. And then get the movie as a result. Walt Disney's Frozen. There's a good little image meme that I posted way back. Frozen would always get like. Frozen would always, they would put their Elsa on everything. Everything would be co-branded with Elsa, Frozen stuff. So there's one company that sold produce, and it said Frozen Elsa's head of lettuce. So it was Elsa's frozen head of lettuce. It just put the wording and said frozen Elsa's head. It's all like that. Anyhow. What's the difference between Snow White and Sleeping Beauty? Snow White is a brunette and Sleeping Beauty is a blonde. There's a story I would tell because I'm such a pervert. When I was a kid, when I was younger, we would go to Disneyland as I played trumpet, and I would go in as a band member, and you would do band days at Disney where we part of a community band group that would go to Disneyland, and they would perform on their. At that time, it was the, what the hell's the name of that? It was the stage they had, Carnation Plaza, they called it. Carnation, the milk company. They sponsored this place. And apparently Carnation Plaza was really popular back in the day. The big bands would come in and play. Disneyland back then was like, oh, you just walked in, you didn't have to pay a big ticket because everything was ticketed, riser ticketed, right? But anyhow, we'd play Carnation Plaza, and they would warn us, like, okay, when you go, they'll take you backstage behind Disneyland. And when you go backstage, be warned, there might be some Disney characters that are half dressed. And we're like, oh, God, I hope it's Cinderella. And I hope she's walking around topless. Oh, perverted me. Yeah, it was never topless Cinderella. It was always like Pluto without his head on, stuff like that. It wasn't... Disney characters in various states of undress. It was not Cinderella. It was never Ariel. It was always Pluto. Damn it, Pluto. Forward looking, what do you think the next big disruption in film will be that replace 8K and 60? I don't think so. I think the big mistake is to not think about Cinderella being topless, but no, the big mistake about film technology is thinking in terms of linear directions. Like you pretend, like thinking of resolution as sort of a direction that goes right. Remember, film was shot on 35 millimeter film. Like Edison was shooting stuff that was equivalent to what we consider maybe 4 to 8K today. Like the quality was never an issue. Like video, yeah, it had to go up in that direction. But I think with 4K, we're kind of maxing out the actual benefit of 4K. Like I'm actually working on this Fox video in 4K. To be honest, like is it a whole lot better than 1080? I'm just going to do it in 4K just to see how it goes. And it's probably why my computer is kind of dying a little bit hard. It's having a little struggle with the 4K. But even from when I'm sitting watching the screens, I don't think 4K. I think 4K is the limit. Like we've reached that point of no returns, not much return, diminishing returns at that scale. So I don't think What's the big disruption? I don't think the big disruption is going to happen. I think it's the disruption that's happening really is the invention of more and more home screens. So I think theaters are going to go more toward big spectacle stuff. That stuff you don't want to watch at home. Stuff you feel like, I got to feel, So I think a lot of smaller movies are going to go toward home and streaming stuff, which is kind of sucky. Maybe we'll return more of the festival states. I mean, that's wishful thinking. I think to bring back like a festival atmosphere, we could bring a lot of smaller movies and then maybe do it that way. Maybe we should see road shows come back. That'd be kind of nice. I mean, I think if like Quentin Tarantino did a road show tour, I think I might go see that. Like something like that. If Paul Thomas Anderson did that, or Wes Anderson or any of these people. Did that might be a return of something that might happen. I think disruption is going to be more in terms of like actual market, how the market responds, how the marketing of these movies rather than necessarily technology. Because I think technology is at the point where we're saturated. Like it's kind of like how excited are you by the new kind of paper they're going to use in their books? It doesn't really matter, right? That's kind of where we are with film, I think. So. All right, gotta go. Mom's ready. Need help with something. Yeah, I hear that. I gotta probably go take care of my mom pretty soon too. Yeah, I'm gonna get off pretty soon, but we'll hang out for a little bit. So I've been an hour. I'll go for an hour and a half or so. That's a nice sci-fi background. That's not a sci-fi background. That's a carnival. That is the carnival that I'm kind of referencing the movie Nightmare Alley. Arrow Films is another great label. Their Claude Chabrol boxes is on my wish list. Cool. You talk about 16K. I don't even have in sight when I will get a 4K TV. So behind me are 3 4K TVs, and there's 3 of them, and but they're hanging that sideways. So when I plug my computer into 3 TVs, that 4K that's it's like 6,000 pixels by 4,000 pixels tall. And my computer, which is an older computer, which I just used to run the backgrounds, was like, nope, I'm not having any of that. And they're just like, I can't, like the mouse barely like literally slideshows across the screen. And what was I saying? So right now it's running at 1300 by 720. It's like ridiculously small, but you can't tell because you don't need that resolution when you're shooting it. Anyway, so I've done more stuff with 3D printing. I'm having some issues with my 3D printer right now. I'm trying to figure. I'm being cheap, and I'm going with cheaper filament, and it's just giving me issues. So I'm trying to figure out if it's the filament or it's my settings are not quite right. So I'm trying to do more tests with it, but I haven't done a whole lot. I've been trying to focus on the Fox video right now, try to get that out. So I've been doing a little bit with it. So yeah, I'm obsessed with it. So, but I need to actually do other stuff. I've got a thing model that I want to make. I want to finish. I need to finish painting it. Is there any Filmmaker Cube where you talk about how does a color celluloid film work? Not like technically how color celluloid works. I've talked a little about there's a history of color. We talk a little about going to the history of it, but not the science of it. And I talk a little about digital, but I don't really get into like actual chemistry of color. I think there's 2 people that made a pretty good video. I would probably recommend. I haven't watched them, but they probably recommend them. The Technology Connections did the whole thing with film. He got into film a lot, which I kind of stayed away because I was like, I'm shooting film a lot lately, photography. I didn't want to kind of jump into it just yet. I know if I watch it, I'll probably just bust out the camera and start shooting color film again. And the other one is Smarter Every Day. Smarter Every Day did a video about it too. So you want to check those videos out. Do you think that 4K makes old movies look weird? No, not really. Not really. I think, no. I mean, I was watching a little bit of Buster Keaton's The General in 4K. And that looks spectacular. I think 4K makes those movies look more like those movies really did. I think we fool ourselves to thinking that those movies were shot on VHS. It's just how a lot of people first watched VHS. We watch those movies on VHS. Those movies are a lot higher quality than we give them credit for. Oh, all right. We'll see you later. Splits. Have some dinner. Bon appetit. What's the must-see movie of the post-pandemic era, in your opinion? I'd say it's so far right now it's the Nightmare Alley. I definitely recommend that. HBO Max it's playing on HBO Max and Hulu if you have either of those services. It is in color, so you'll see the color version. And that was a movie that they started shooting before the pandemic, and then they stopped for 6 months. It's kind of a godsend, I guess, to the way Guillermo del Toro says. They shot so much, but they were like he was editing it during the pandemic. And then he gave him time to think it through a lot more. And then when he came back, he basically created this bubble in Toronto where they shot it. And he was able to reshoot a bunch of stuff that he didn't think worked out quite as well. So he gave him time to reassess and make it better. So film should be screened in 35 millimeter carbon arc projector. I'd love to see that. I want to make it out to New Beverly. That's Quentin Tarantino's theater out in L.A. I just don't want to go to L.A. Ugh, I hate L.A. Ooh, Pig is the best film of 2021. No one will change my mind. Highly doubt any film will top that for me. I haven't seen Pig. Okay, I'll check that one out. I like the tagline of Tech Connections video. The reason some of the past was in HD. I think some of the past. I think a lot of the past was HD. Yeah. Luke Skywalker says, definitely. Be the Force, Luke. Be. I have to see Pig. A lot of people are saying good stuff about it. Let's go back some of the old, see if we catch some old ones. Never mind. So, ooh, there you go. My favorite movie of all time, There Will Be Blood. Great character development and evolution. It's on Netflix, and nobody has seen it. Yeah, it's great. I have that movie on. I just bought it just because. I never opened the DVD, the Blu-ray of it, but I have it. So I loved it. It was great in theaters. I highly recommend it, Dear John. It's the film world desperately needs right now. Pig. Okay. I will put that. Is that on streaming or anything? Any of the streaming stuff? So I'll tell you about another movie I watched the other night. Hey, Rigel7, how you doing? That movie I watched last night, finally finished last night, was I have this thing about watching old Batman, Batman cartoon, animated features. I'm not watching old Batman movies. I'm watching animated Batman. And so I watched Batman's Enter the Dragon, which is this weird 70s throwback. It wants to include Bruce Lee in it, and then there's a Chinese girl who's a fighter, and then there's a black guy who's played by Michael Jai White. Michael Jai White, is that his name? Yeah, the Dolomite character. Dolomite's in town. Yeah, Michael Jai Williams or something like that. I forget his last name. Anyhow, it was It was they're trying to make Batman 70s kung fu movie. I love the Warner Brothers animation. What they do with Batman is so intriguing because there's Samurai Batman, Ninja Batman, which is just off the walls insane. Then I watched another one called Batman and Two-Face. I think it came back earlier, but it was voiced by Adam West, and they tried to do it like an Adam West Batman, and they completely throwing back. It was voiced by Adam West and Burt Ward, and William Shatner plays Two-Face. And they really try to invoke that 60s Batman feel. I mean, I don't have a huge love for that. I mean, I love the original, the Adam West movie is always fun, but that's not Batman. That's a cartoon, that's something different. I don't consider that Batman. As you can probably see from, if you didn't know, yes, I'm a Batman nut. So yeah, so I was watching I was watching that. The Dragon one was okay. It was a little weird. Had a lot of good music to it. It had a lot of funk music. The other Batman, Two-Face, I was I couldn't really get into it. I was getting tired and sleepy, and I was let's just move on. So Yeah, Batman Assault on Arkham was a really good one. I really like the two. My favorite ones so far were Batman the long Halloween or something like that. Long, and that was like I really liked that one. I really liked the Dark Knight. I believe that's the Frank Miller where it's the older Batman. I really like those two. Those are probably my favorite two of the two animated Batmans. But yeah, animated DC films are better than live action DC films. I think I do have a thing for Batman. I was tried watching like the Wonder Woman. I'm like, I'm not really into the Wonder Woman thing. I don't know where it's streaming, even renting it is worth it just to support the film. I'm definitely grabbing the Blu-ray. Cool. I don't know where to. Is it on Redbox? That's the only thing I know. I don't even rent films anymore. I guess I could just go to Amazon and just rent it there. I am stuck in Maui where there are only 2 or 3 small cineplexes that screen 4K DCPs, and I miss out on Licorice Pizza. And I barely played for a week because the release is so limited. Yeah, I know it didn't play very long. I liked a lot of the 60s Batman cartoons. I think it's a mistake to shut it down after Adam West died. Oh, yeah. They shut down after the new cartoons or the old cartoons? I don't know. Batman's voice in that, because it was obviously the older Adam West voice. It kind of felt you kind of hear the age. It was a little. Yeah, Batman Mask of the Phantasm was good too. I enjoyed that. I just don't think it's as good as the as long to me the long Halloween, I think is the name of it, really was good because it incorporated a lot of the Batman lore. Oh, Hello Dolly. Yep, it's Todd Sayo. I don't remember that, but I'm sure it probably they didn't do too well. I think the Hello Dolly. And I don't think Barbara Streisand was really right for that role. It really wasn't for her. You kind of need an older woman for Hello Dolly. Am I thinking Hello Dolly? Is that Barbara Streisand? That is. Is that Barbara Streisand? Yeah, it is Barbara Streisand. What am I thinking? Oh, Nicolas Cage is in the lead. Okay, yeah. No, Nicolas Cage, because I want to see Mandy. My friend saw that. That was a mind effer. Yeah, Gio said, yeah, old man voice on a young Batman. Yeah, I know. It's like, and it's got that old drawl too. So it's like, well, Commissioner, well, Commissioner Gordon, some things just aren't the way they use. I don't know. I'm doing a horrible impression. I should think about it before I do these things live. Movie theaters need a new tech breakthrough that make expectations you can't have at home. Yeah, but is that really what's going to draw you to movie theaters? I mean, I don't think that's the reason why movie theaters are suffering. Really, I think they have obviously the Dolby atmosphere where 120 speaker points and all that crap. There's so much technology in the movie theaters, and people are kind of they don't really want to go to the theater. They want to get out of the house. They want to watch stuff on their phones. They want to watch stuff at home. And people spend like thousands of dollars on their television sets and their sound bars and their 7.1 surround sound at home. They don't, necessarily want to go out. So I think that's the problem with the movie theaters. Yeah, that's what's going to perpetuate the idea that either we're going to have to make movie theaters more of just a large experience kind of a movie, where you want to experience it in IMAX on the biggest screen you can have, or it's going to be more of a community thing, where it's like, okay, we're going to come together and we're going to celebrate these films. That's why I said like a roadshow thing might work out. If you bring in a celebrity that's the director of the movie, it might work out good. Gene Kelly directed Hello Dolly, felt kind of weird about it because he was adapting someone else's work and had to make this intimate story into an epic blockbuster. Yeah, there's a lot of things that was weird about with Hello Dolly, and I forget what studio produced it, but I remember it was not a good. It wasn't good for them. I think it lost money. In my opinion, who's the best colorist? I have no idea. They're all good. I don't know. It's like when Connery voiced Bond in From Russia with Love video game. Oh, that'd be interesting. Can't believe the new Spider-Man did so well, broke many records. I think people were just wanting to get out and see something, and it wasn't a bad film. It was. I would say it's a B movie, like a B rated, B as an AB graded, grade B for me. It wasn't like a bad film. It was good. Yeah. So Antoni says it hit him where it mattered multiple times. Yeah. And I said this last time too with as far as Endgame is concerned. I made Endgame. I thought Endgame was a spectacular achievement. Not for being a film necessarily, but for being able to cobble together a legacy of 22 films leading up to it. You know, that to me was historically important and amazing, and an amazing accomplishment. But what's next? And that's a big question for every studio. What's next? And you can't live on that forever. Chase Williams says adjustable cushion seats and deafening sound system aren't enough to bring people into theaters, and the marketing of many films in the past you would easily really lackluster and poorly handled. I wonder too if maybe the wide release needs to be rethought. Like maybe we shouldn't do wide releases. And I get why you would do a wide release, because it's cheaper to just go on a TV show, go on a daily talk show, and promote your movie, then everyone can go see it. But I wonder if that just it creates fewer slots available for things. I really wonder. I really wish the roadshow kind of idea would come back. But maybe I'm missing something there. I'm getting tired. Ugh. Have I tried Korean kimchi? I don't like kimchi. Sorry, I've never cared for kimchi, and maybe I just haven't had a good kimchi yet. But I just don't like kimchi. I'm from Taiwan though, so I like some weird stuff in Taiwan. Did I see The Last Duel? No, I haven't. I probably should watch that. I want to see the other Ridley Scott movie, Gucci, House of Gucci. What I think of Ghostbusters Afterlife, I have no interest in seeing that. So it's just not on my radar, man. I like Ghostbusters. I don't think I need to, but I'm not in love with Ghostbusters. But I like the first two. I need to say this. Just take a poll. I didn't like Dune. It was long and boring and low light grading throughout. Anything else feel the same? I liked Dune a lot. Like I thought Dune was because I've seen the David Lynch version, which I thought was bad, and I'm familiar enough with the story. But I really dug the Dune movie. It wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but I was like, when it ended, I'm like, wow, that was pretty cool. I really dug it. I saw it on IMAX too, so I did see it on the biggest screen I could find. What did you think of Electric Company Spider-Man? I don't know what that is. Electric Company? Is that the TV show from the 70s after Sesame Street? I probably wouldn't have loved Endgame as a miniseries or something along those lines. I gave it two chances, once at the cinema, once at home. I had a headache both times. The second time I saw Endgame was on a cruise. And I was like, well, I'm bored. What am I going to do? Oh, they're showing Endgame in the lounge. I'm going to go see Endgame. I watched Endgame again. Yeah, I saw it twice. Or did I see it twice? Maybe I saw it 3 times. I don't remember. See, you guys, Korean food, bulgogi, makikis, and patbunsu is where it's at. Bulgogi is a lesser version of a suijiao. I'm sorry. And suijiao, you Americans know as pot stickers. In Taiwan, we call them suijiao. And like Taiwanese street food, like that's where it's at, man. I haven't been to Taiwan since I was 7, so that, oh God, don't make me do the math. Not good. Don't do it. But I remember Taiwan street food. I mean, if you watch something like Crazy Rich Asians, they do a good job. In the Philippines, Philippines have their own, delicacies, but that kind of a good example of Asian street food culture. Yeah, miss that. If you enjoyed Long Halloween, you should read the original. I like reading them, but I'm not a really big comic book reader. I'm okay with, I find myself getting confused when I read comic books because I don't know whether I look at the pictures or I look at the words, and I'm just reading the words and then not looking at the pictures because I just want to get through the story, and I miss out on the beauty of the comics. So it's hard for me. It's hard. As far as good Korean cinema goes, Hong Sang-soo's films are worth checking out. A great Korean director who's pretty much been eclipsed by more popular directors like Bong Joon-ho and Park Chan-wook. I'm not a big Korean film guy. I'm just not. Like, maybe I'm not. Korean films don't appeal to me for some reason. Because I'm Taiwanese, I think that's because it's a cultural problem. Love Dune because I read the book and I loved the adaptation. It seemed like it was probably like Harry Potter's first movie where people who never read the book or thought it was slow. I think, yeah, or I never read the book either, but I'm familiar enough with the story. Oh, the best musical, yes. Rocky Horror Picture Show is probably one of the best, if not the best movie musical, I think. The best musical of all time, I think, is probably more like How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. Guys and Dolls, the musical, is way better than the movie. Guys and Dolls might be the perfect musical in my book, like my favorite one of all time. The Producers, probably my favorite. Producers and Guys and Dolls are my two favorite musicals of all time. They're not very good movies. The movie, even Frank Sinatra, Marlon Brando, and Producers, the movie, God, it was awful. The movie version was awful. The show is just astoundingly good, but the fucking movie is awful. Just terrible. I get the most bitchy when it comes to movie musicals. Oh my God, the tongue lashing comes out. How dare you, John? Anyhow, I'm getting tired. Are you going to make a movie about favorite things you have made with your 3D printer? Maybe. Like a little video of it. Korean fish bread is great. Oh, cool. There's no fish. It's just shaped like one. I actually thought it was a sack of them. Three, and the guy meant 3,001 worth. Oh, wow. Just found Project Alf on YouTube. It seems like a great flick to watch tonight. Okay. Don't know what Project Alf. There's also a good documentary on Making of Batman, the animated series. If you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube somewhere. The Making of Batman, the animated series. Really interesting, fascinating stuff. I used to think the Simpsons were just a bunch of crazy guys and dolls. Oh, yeah, joke. Was a legit song from the musical. We're just a crazy guys and dolls. Yeah. I love the musical from the Simpsons, called the musical version of Tennessee Williams' Streetcar Named Desire. To hell again. New Orleans. Dun, 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 dun. Stella, Stella. Can't you hear me yell? Stella, Stella. And who could forget the musical Planet of the Apes? That's my favorite musical from The Simpsons. Dr. Zaius. Can I play the piano anymore? Of course you can, but I couldn't before. All right, terrible. John, horrible. Have I seen We'll Have Dreams, We'll Travel? No. Have I seen Napoleon Dynamite? Yes. Napoleon Dynamite was directed by my brother, Jared Hess. Just kidding, he's not my brother. But he is Hess. He is a Hess. I don't think we're related in any way, though. Luke, be a Jedi tonight. Very good. Yeah, that Batman documentary is fascinating. I love like real industry documentaries when they interview people that aren't the stars and the directors. I love hearing those stories, like the actual mechanics of filmmaking and movie making or TV show making. They talk to the actual artists, because to me it's just fascinating. And there's also a good documentary about there's a documentary about Star Trek, the Trouble on the Bridge. It's definitely worth watching. That one's definitely worth watching. I'm trying to think of another one that I just saw recently that I liked. Oh yeah, I was going to recommend the series, The Movies That Made Us on Netflix. I know one guy on Facebook said he hated the way those are made, but I love them because they show you a side of Hollywood that isn't. They don't interview the director. You don't see Jon Favreau in the documentary about making of Elf. You hear all the other people talking about it, and I love that. I love that part of that. Pops Freshenmeyer. Oh my God, I was wrong. It was Earth all along. Now you finally made a monkey. Yes, he finally made a monkey. Yes, she finally made a monkey out of me. I'm messing up the ending. I love that. Oh my God. Thank you guys. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here. Who are you? I am John. Warlock home video, Chris Seaver. All right, do it for Yoda while we serve our guests in the sofa. Sorry, I had to do it. I don't remember that line. Oh, I didn't put that one up yet. There, I don't remember that line. All right, guys, it is 6:20. Oh my goodness. Favorite Simpsons episode of all time? Oh God, I don't know. I really don't know what my favorite Simpsons episode of all time is. Like, I'm trying to rack a brain. I mean, the first one comes to mind is the monorail one, because but I don't know if that's favorite one of them all. 22 short stories about Springfield. It wasn't my favorite. Gosh, I don't know what my favorite one is. I've never thought about it. They're all my favorites. I mean, obviously I love some more than others. God, that's a good one. I don't know what. Lisa the Vegetarian. You can't make friends with salad. Gosh, what is... Bart gets an F? Yeah, I remember that one's pretty good. God, what is my favorite Simpsons episode? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I think I would have to go... I would go with one of the early, like the seasons between season 2 and 3 and 4. I think would be where I would be, where I would love the most. But I don't know what my favorite would be. You've literally stumped us, man. You've literally stumped me. Completely stumped me. All right. Give us at least 24 hours for the Fox video premiere, please. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll try to do that. All right, guys. What's my profession? I am a video producer, maker of content media. I am filmmaker, but not just films. I make all kinds of stuff. What do you think are the optimal number of seasons for a television show? Probably 7. Quick answer. No explanation needed. Okay. All right, guys. I'm going to take off. I'm going to go finish up some things and go home and take care of my mom, feed her, and put her to bed, and do this all over again. Talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye.